Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are, or whenever you're watching this. This is Sergio with the RideShare Guy. Today, I'm joined by Rich from Chicago. Good morning or good afternoon, Rich. Welcome to Behind the Wheel. How you doing today?
Oh, much like I tell you, everyone, Sergio, I'm living the dream. Although at times it seems like a nightmare, but I'm living the dream. Just a
Uh,
matter of perspective.
yeah, it's all about attitudes, right? I mean,
Yes,
in our world, a lot of people complain, but then complaining is not going to get us anywhere because as ourselves on the Rideshare Guy or Show Me the Money Club, we have two circles. One is a circle of influence and one is a circle of control, right? Certain things
right.
we can influence a lot, but control is not something that we do. But it seems like you took control of what you're doing in Chicago, at least for yourself. But before we get into that, please introduce yourself to us as far as how many platforms you drive for, how many years, how many trips.
Well, my name is Richard Juarez. I first signed up to drive on the rideshare platform in December of 2014 on December 14th, interesting enough. The job I had before this was vastly different, but the series of circumstances that happened that led me to the rideshare industry because it was an opportunity to meet all my financial responsibility. I used to have a very different job that had nothing to do with facing the public, but I believe I've thrived with the people I have met. I drove with Uber for over 30,000 trips. I left them in October before I hit my eighth year. I drove for Via while they were here when they first came here. I have a lot of respect for the way Via ran their company. And I've been driving for Lyft since I believe it was February of 2015. With Lyft, I believe I have well over 7,900 rides. And I used to also drive for a limo company. All this happened because of the way my life changed in August of 2014. Having said all that, across all the platforms and limousines, and when people hire me out privately, I've given in excess of 38,000 rides.
Yeah. So obviously you're a veteran, and obviously I call myself a veteran. I've been on the platform since 2015 myself. And as veterans, it doesn't matter what city you're in. We've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. And and it seems like the trend is not the driver's friend when it comes to many things, but we're going to discuss that anyway. So you said you stopped, or you've done over 30,000 trips on the Uber platform, and I'm sure you've seen a lot, right?
Yes,
Um,
tremendous.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I've seen a tremendous a few some things I can share, some things I can't. My passengers often ask me about it. I've seen the beautiful side of a lot of wonderful people, but I've also seen some of the very challenging and disturbing sides of some people. But the one thing I ask everyone that gets in my car, knowing I don't say it out loud, but at the bare minimum, I just ask people to be courteous to me and my vehicle. They can be loud and vulgar towards each other. I don't care. It happens. But as long as they're courteous to me and my vehicle, I'll get them safely, comfortably, and as quick as I can to their destination.
Yeah,
Safety is my, I'm
no,
sorry,
I,
go ahead.
I I agree with you, and you're in a challenging city. I mean, crime obviously in every city is rampant, and but you have to watch yourself. In fact, I interviewed a driver who was carjacked in Chicago last month, and he lived to tell about it. And we're going to obviously put it on behind the wheel. But the other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is when you got in touch with me, it raised my curiosity that you had some ideas about or reasons why you actually stopped without getting deactivated on your own driving for Uber. Why is that? Why was that?
Because Uber, when they kept going through their generations of how they structure their fares, it became very disadvantageous for the driver. But the final straw was when I got notified they're going to start implementing what they call a weekly fee. So now they're going to start charging us so we can drive for them to generate revenue for them. They're already taking a big part of the fare, and now they want me to pay an additional weekly fee. See ya. I gotta go. I'm moving on. I'm driving exclusively for Lyft now. I used to do the minority of my rides, minority meaning lesser rides, with Lyft. But when they implemented this weekly fee, I gotta go. You're already taking enough money, and now you want more money?
What kind of car do you drive, by the way?
I drive an Acura MDX.
Okay. So is that Uber X or higher platforms?
It's higher.
Right.
Well, that's the part that really disturbs me because one of the things that Uber did that really angered me, but I found a way around it. I found my peace. They used to have the Select platform here.
Yeah.
My car and the Select platform was a black car just without delivery plates.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was in um, March of 2020, I think it was 2020 or 2018, they said they're going to eliminate the Select platform in Chicago. And my thought was this: what additional, what does it cost Uber to leave the Select platform on one of the selections?
Yeah.
Because it costs them no money. But the way I see it, because as I saw things unfold, Uber kept looking for ways to try and cut prices to compete with Lyft and get a bigger share of the market. And this is one of the ways they did that because they came up with the Comfort platform,
Yeah.
which was a bait and switch. And I believe the Comfort platform is their idea of how to undercut the Lux platform on the Lyft platform. And so, same car, same identical car. But in order to get more people in a nicer car, this is what I believe. I believe I have no proof. This is what I believe Uber's plan was. And so when they implemented the Comfort platform, and then once they rolled it out, they lowered the fare.
Yeah.
So this is one of many things that they have done that I believe is very disingenuous and manipulative. But that's my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I mean, look, it's not just your opinion because it happened I'm in LA, Los Angeles, and they dropped Select from the top three choices for a consumer or a passenger all the way to the bottom of the list, which you cannot even find, right?
mhm.
But look, they constantly tinker with the algorithms. They constantly tinker with what car goes on what platform, and which none of it is advantageous for the driver. But is there any other reason? I mean, you mentioned something that's interesting to me because I hadn't heard that before. A couple of minutes ago, you said, it is like us paying them to drive for them, right?
Right, right.
Can you expand a little bit more on that fee that you're talking about that it doesn't seem like Lyft has implemented yet?
Well, I'll send you the screenshot of it when I got it,
Yeah,
and I can read it to you. But it basically says that this is an additional fee that they're charging, or they're going to charge, or if they now hit it within the service fee to help keep the Uber platform running smoothly and
right.
to help find other ways. They're hiding it. They're disguising it,
Yeah.
but I believe that's part of it. Now I'll send it to you in an email.
Okay.
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 Um, so go ahead.
Okay. So now you're just quit doing Uber last October or so, and you're doing Lyft only. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you about is, during our previous conversations, you had mentioned to me that you take drivers under your wing as a veteran, you mentor them, you teach them the ropes, right? Because as we all know, not too many people are like you, meaning on the platforms for 7, 8 years, right? Both companies have this churn and burn attitude, meaning, the drivers come, drivers go. One is replaced with another 10 because they spend billions of dollars in marketing to onboard new drivers because as veterans, we both have a lot of scar tissue when it comes to rate cuts and changes and all these things, right? And to be perfectly honest, I don't think Uber and Lyft want veteran drivers. I think they just want newbies who don't know anything, will accept every trip and then, do whatever they want the driver to do, as opposed to the driver, figuring the game out. Because I call it a game because I think it's gamified, it's gamification, all these colors, bells and whistles on the app. What do you say about that?
I don't know. I've never thought about wanting to get rid of veteran drivers. But what I do is that, and you're right, they do change features to sometimes hide and disguise certain things. Much like one of the things I shared with one of the drivers that I work with or I help is that don't chase the carrot,
Yeah.
because a lot of times they'll dangle a 21 uh, ride streak, a 3 ride streak bonus. And I go, well, do the math. Is it worth the lack of sleep? Is it the worth not being with your family? What's more valuable to you? And if you're going to get $21, and sometimes he tells me that it's like sometimes he's got to wait 40 minutes for his next ride. I go, is it worth it to you? It isn't to me. When it gets so slow and I don't hit a dollar amount, I'm done. It's not worth it to me. Where's my time better spent?
Yeah.
Doing other things. So
Yeah.
that's what I express to people.
Yeah. Well, since you're only on one platform now, obviously the white, Uber is the clear leader when it comes to rideshare in most major cities such as Chicago, right? And I've interviewed many successful drivers in Chicago. And they had their own strategy. So what is your typical day look like doing rideshare? How many hours do you drive? How many trips you do a day? How do you figure out rideshare around your life as opposed to your life around rideshare?
Well, this is what I do. I mean, I consider the day, whether it is a holiday or there are things going on, because strategy is different for the days. Like Tuesdays and Thursdays, what I've always come to see when I drove for the limo company, it's the consultant days. It's was the businessman flies out or he flies to the airport to get to the other city for whatever reason. So Tuesdays and Thursdays can be very busy, as can Monday morning, but I only typically drive in the afternoon till the evening. And it all centers around what activities are going on in the city. I often put on my calendar the concerts, the sporting events, the music festivals. That determines when I come out because I want to maximize my hours out there. Like um, the week before, in the partial week of the 4th of July, I think across all the money I made $55 an hour. But mind you, it's knowing where to drive or where not to drive. Because one of the things that I do is that when it's late at night on a day like that, I get out of the downtown area and I go out to the suburbs. Reason being is because the GPS signal in downtown Chicago is off 85% of the times. And a lot of people that go downtown, they're tourists. They don't even know where they are. And when Lyft sends us where to pick someone up, I typically call them and I ask them, what are you standing in front of? So this way I know exactly where they are. Because sometimes Lyft will prompt them to go someplace else and they don't even know where they are. And so for me, I want to pick up my passengers. And much like I tell my passengers, my loyalty is to my riders. They help me pay my bills, not Lyft, not Lyft or Uber.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why I do everything I can to help them.
Yeah. You said you only drive for Lyft. Is that enough to sustain and pay for your bills and take care of everything? Or are you ever going to go back to Uber? Because look, Uber is the clear leader. I mean, they have massive 75% market share, right? And
Hmm.
I know you quit driving for them. You're not deactivated. You can always turn the app on and drive for them again, correct?
Yes. Yeah, and I have no intention of going back with them. The reason why is this. I used to pick up quite a few people at the Uber office here downtown. And when they get in, I always ask, "Oh, do you work for Uber?" And a lot of times they're hesitant to answer.
Yeah,
And when they tell me yes, I tell them, and they go, "Are you going to kick me out?" And I go, "No. Why would I kick you out? You work for them. You're not the one that makes policy. You're not the one that structures the fare. You're not the one that built this ridiculous navigation system they have. You're doing what you can to help with the tools that you have. Why would I do that?" And I say that to them very clearly. And I've met quite a few, and I even met one attorney that worked for Uber. And what I and they when I say it like that to them, they prompt me and ask me, "Well, what issues do you have?" And I share with them. And I tell them, "Here's my contact info. If you want more information, I'd be happy to share it with you." And I always say, and this is the way I speak to everyone in customer service. I do not have an issue with you. If I offended you, that was not my intention. You're doing what you can to help me with the tools that you have available. And so when I say this to all the people that I've had from the Uber office, I go, I'm not an emotional person, and I hope I explained it very clearly. And they said, yes, you explained everything very clearly. The lawyer she even gave me her personal phone number to send her examples of the issues, was basically the navigation. Because one of the examples I gave her was Uber had a surge price out in Lake Michigan. And
yeah,
I said that to her, and I said, I'm sorry, that day I left my car with the pontoons at home.
yeah,
I'm not going to, how are you going to pick up a surge? Because towards
yeah,
the end, when I stopped driving for him, you had to basically be in the middle of that surge to pick up that surge.
yeah. I agree.
So I've done everything I can.
Yeah,
And so, and she was a very kind woman.
yeah,
I can't commend her and recognize her enough. But apparently, people upstairs in Uber, they don't care enough.
yeah. I agree. But the thing that I always say to drivers, because I speak to thousands of them every month, is that with scale comes problems, right? Because Uber has reached such a scale now, doing billions of trips every 3 months. I sometimes wonder, Rich, that things even work as well as they do, to be perfectly honest with you, right? But what I also wonder is that this is such a simple business. We pick up point A, drop off of point B, just like cabs. Cab companies with an app, basically, I call these companies. And to me, it's like, why is this made so difficult? Just clarify things, make it simple. I had a mentor, and he always used to tell me, keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah,
And it seems like they make it more convoluted and complicated for no reason whatsoever, other than maybe deserve their massive paychecks, right? But
agreed.
I want to also talk to you a little bit about, which I do myself quite a bit, is talking to new drivers, mentoring new drivers, because before I even took my first trip, I found myself three veteran drivers in LA. And I picked their brain for a whole month before I even took my first trip, right? So
Mhm.
is that something you're also doing yourself in Chicago, mentoring new drivers and teaching them the ropes?
I do what I can,
Yeah.
but it's up to the person to whether or not they want to listen, and I share the information because before I became a rideshare driver, and that's the way I frame it, I was a union officer for 9 years at a
Mm,
facility that closed, right? But they closed, had nothing to do with the union worker. And so for me, what I've often said, I can only give you the information. What you choose to do, it is up to you. All right. And so even as a passenger, I talk to the driver. I goes, "Hey, so how long you been doing this? I know it's tough. I'm a fellow driver in a different city
yeah,
or even in Chicago." And so sometimes they shut down right away. "Oh, I don't need anyone to tell me how."
yeah,
Okay. I'm not going to be invasive. You don't want to here, that's fine. You have your way that's working for you. God bless you. I wish you nothing but happiness, health, and joy.
yeah,
You know, but there have been a couple of people, even one gentleman that moved from Chicago to Phoenix, and he's having an issue because he got deactivated here in Chicago. And so right now he's driving for Uber out there. And I told him, to contact the rideshare professor puts it up there, Rocket, to see if they can help him.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've ever experienced, but I've had passengers that filed false reports on me.
Yeah.
And for me, they're gaming the system because they want a free ride, or they're not happy because I tell them you have too many people. I can only take as many people as I have seatbelts, and everyone has to be under a seatbelt. This is per insurance. The the insurance company will not cover the vehicle if something happens. Also, when you have more people in the car than the insurance coverage that's purchased by the rideshare industry, they won't cover if you have too many passengers. So I believe this is one of the reasons why some of them file a false report against me.
Yeah.
And that's
So,
frustrating.
as far as, rideshare is concerned, obviously this is not something people can do forever, right? Because as
Right.
you correctly stated, we're one false accusation from a passenger, and getting deactivated by these companies, which is a new term that they use. I call it firing. There is no such thing as deactivation. I'm not even sure what that
Right.
means, but in the remaining couple 3 minutes, I wish I could talk to you all day, but how long are you going to continue doing it? And I mean, this is not something that's, as far as I'm concerned, very healthy for the body or the mind, to be honest with you. But you've been at it for 8 years, and how much longer are you going to keep doing it? Do you have any other plan Bs or retirement? What are you thinking about?
Well, two things. I am near retirement age, but um, I agree it's not healthy for the body. But for the mind, I have a small wellness practice that I'm slowly building.
Okay.
I'm a Reiki practitioner, and I coach and guide people about the duality of life. And so this is perfect in that when people get in my car and they want to challenge my peace, I always tell people, and I say this to baristas and many people in customer service, don't let someone take that away from you.
Yeah.
Stay focused on your peace. And it's important for rideshare drivers to grow a thick skin and not allow someone to take them out of that, because they're only going to be in their life the short period of time they're in the car. But I've had numerous passengers that stay in touch with me because of some of the things that I've shared with them. Or if the wellness practice builds quickly, if not, whatever opportunity, because I'm open to listening to opportunities. We'll see where the universe and where the divine leads me.
Okay.
And if I have an opportunity, I'm gone.
Yeah, I mean, it's that's as good advice as anybody can give, really. And on the last couple of minutes, what would you change about rideshare in general, but specifically in your city of Chicago?
What I would offer Richard to consider is this: you can crush Uber if you go back to the original format of price fare estimate, because your system cannot see traffic. If it can't see traffic, because it doesn't even see a stationary object, so how can you calculate a structure a correct fare? And that's the demise of upfront pricing. If you go back to the original, track the car, and if people complain about it, you can state it as simple as, it's unfortunate you see it this way, but there are unforeseeable things that happen. This is the fare. We hope to see you back, and let it go at that. Because those people that want to game the system, they're going to find a way. But if they go back to the fare estimate and drivers start getting paid higher, because there is a format that I can explain, but if they pay them more, they will get a loyalty from the drivers, and that will drive drivers to Lyft. It will drive them away from Uber. Uber will be forced to increase their surge pricing, which in turn would send people to Lyft. And I think that simple format would crush Uber because they rely on gimmicks. They don't rely on service.
I
Lyft
agree.
can focus on service.
I agree. I agree with you actually that going back, and Richard already said that, hinted that go back to the original idea. Do one thing and do one thing really, really well. And that's what he's trying
Agreed.
to do. So, I want to thank you so much for joining me for this interview. I mean, experience and life experience in anything we do is the most important thing. And the more you drive, the more you experience things in this game. And obviously you have a boatload of those. And thank you for what you do for mentoring other drivers and talking to us. And we'll definitely keep in touch and you stay safe out there. Okay, Rich?
Sergio, one thing really quick. One of the things I suggest people do, a bubble machine. Reason being is that when people get in your car and tell you they're celebrating something or they're having a birthday, if you pull this out and do this, it may increase their tip. It's a
Great.
simple investment that had huge returns.
Great advice as usual. Again, from a veteran. Rich, thank you for joining us and we'll see you around. Be safe out there, okay?
Take care.